For the third time in 10 seconds, I watched my wife reach for her car keys. She picked them up, stared at them as if they were artifacts from some ancient civilization, then set them back down on the counter. Her hand trembled just slightly. "I don't remember what I did today," she said. My stomach dropped through the floor. I knew that look. I'd seen it 15 years ago on my mother's face when she began forgetting where she'd parked her car, then forgot my name, then forgot everything. Early onset Alzheimer's had stolen her from me, piece by piece, until nothing was left but a shell that breathed and blinked and didn't recognize her own son. In 3 steps I crossed the kitchen and took Natalie's face in my hands. Her skin was cool, her eyes were wet. "Hey, look at me!" I waited until her eyes focused on mine. "First thing tomorrow, we're getting you checked. Devon, I'm scared." Her voice broke on my name. "What if it's what your mom had?" "Then we deal with it together." "That's what we do. Whatever this is, we face it." I pulled her close, let her cry into my shoulder, stroked her hair the way I used to when we were 22, and the world seemed like something we could conquer if we just held on tight in us. 11 years, Nat, for better or worse, remember. She nodded against my chest. I held her tighter. I believed every word I said. God help me, I believed of it. The first major episode happened on a Tuesday in early October. Natalie left for work at 8 in the morning. I watched her pull out of the driveway, coffee in hand, wearing that blue blouse I'd bought her for her birthday. She was supposed to have client meetings until 5, then grab groceries on the way home. At 7 that evening, she walked through the door with no groceries and a blank expression that made my blood run cold. "Hey, babe." I tried to keep my voice casual. "Long day." She looked at me like she was trying to place my face. There was a 3-second delay before recognition landed. "Yeah, long day. Did you get the groceries?" Her brow furrowed. "The what?" "The groceries. You texted me at noon saying you'd stop at Whole Foods. We needed stuff for the Harrison dinner Saturday. Remember?" She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her messages, and I watched the color drain from her face. Her thumb stopped on our text chain and stayed there. "I don't, Tethan. I don't remember sending this." Her voice cracked. "I don't remember anything after my 2 o'clock meeting. What time is it now?" 7. "That's 5 hours." She sat down heavily on the kitchen stool. Where was I for 5 hours? I pulled her into my arms again. "It's okay. It's going to be okay. We'll figure this out, Nat. I promise." But inside I was already making phone calls in my head. Neurologists, specialists, whatever it took. 2 days later I took off went, something I almost never do. My firm doesn't run itself. And drove Natalie to see Dr. Eleanor Vance. She'd been our family physician for 8 years. A no-nonsense woman in her 60s with silver, streaked hair and bifocals. She constantly pushed up her nose. Eleanor had seen everything and wasn't impressed by much, but she looked concerned when Natalie described the missing time. 5 hours is significant, Eleanor said, making notes on her tablet. "Walk me through exactly what you remember from that day." Natalie took a breath. "I had a meeting at St. Catherine's Hospital at 2, procurement department, talking about our new cardiac line. I remember walking into the lobby. I remember the receptionist asking me to sign in. And then, she shook her head. Then I was in my car, and it was dark, and I was pulling into our driveway. Any headaches before or after? Visual disturbances, confusion beyond the memory gap itself? No, I felt fine. That's what's so terrifying. I lost time. Like someone hit fast forward on my life and I wasn't there for it. Eleanor looked at me. Devon, has Natalie seemed different to you lately? Personality changes. Mood swings. She's been stressed about work, I said carefully. The new territory is demanding, but nothing that seemed concerning. Not until this. Eleanor nodded. I want to run a full workup. MRI, blood work, cognitive assessment. We need to rule out any neurological causes before we explore other explanations. Other explanations. Natalie's voice went thin. Like what? Let's not jump ahead of ourselves. One step at a time. I held Natalie's hand as we scheduled the appointments. I held it through every needle, every cold. Sterile room with machines that whirred and clicked while technicians spoke in hushed voices behind glass partitions. She squeezed my fingers so hard during the MRI that I lost feeling in two of them, but I didn't say a word. That's what husbands do. At least that's what I thought husbands do. Day 10 and Eleanor called us back in to discuss the results. I'd barely slept in a week. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother in that nursing home bed staring at the ceiling, gone years before her body finally gave up. Everything came back clear, Eleanor said. I blinked. Clear. The MRI shows no abnormalities, no tumors, no lesions, no signs of early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. Her blood work is perfect. I mean, genuinely excellent. Cholesterol, thyroid, liver function, all of it. Cognitive assessments show she's functioning at above average levels across the board. Whatever's happening, it's not organic. Then what's causing the memory loss? I heard the frustration in my own voice and tried to dial it back. Sorry, I need to understand. I know, and I wish I had a clearer answer. Eleanor leaned back in her chair. Stress can do remarkable things to the human brain. Natalie, you mentioned your workload has increased significantly in the past few months. Natalie nodded. The new territory has been brutal. I'm covering 3 states now instead of 1. 12-hour days sometimes, and the travel is exhausting. Dissociative episodes can occur during periods of extreme stress. The brain essentially takes a break without telling you. It's a protective mechanism, but it can be deeply unsettling. Eleanor scribbled something on a prescription pad and handed it to Natalie. I'd like to refer you to a therapist who specializes in stress-related disorders, Dr. Angela Reeves. She's excellent. We left the office with the referral card and my wife's hand in mine. I should have felt relieved. I should have been celebrating. Instead, something cold settled in my chest, something that wouldn't identify itself for another 4 days. Day 12. Another lapse. 4 hours this time. Natalie called me at 6, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Devon, I don't know where I am. My heart stopped. What do you mean? Look around. What are you seeing? A parking lot, some strip mall. There's a dry cleaner and a nail salon. I've never been here before. The last thing I remember is eating a salad at my desk. Okay. Stay calm. I'm going to track your phone and come get you. Stay in the car, keep the doors locked, and I'll be there as fast as I can. I found her in a shopping center 15 miles from her office, sitting in the driver's seat of her Lexus, mascara streaking her cheeks, her hands shaking so badly she couldn't hold her phone steady. What's wrong with me? She kept asking as I drove her home. Devon, what's wrong with me? I didn't have an answer, so I did what I always do when I don't have answers. I solved the problem I could solve. 2 days later, at 2 in the morning while she slept upstairs, I installed a GPS tracker in her car. I told myself it was for her safety. What if she got disoriented while driving on the highway? What if she ended up somewhere dangerous and couldn't remember how to get home? What if she needed me and didn't know where she was? These were the lies I told myself as I wired the small black device under her dashboard, lying on the cold concrete of our garage floor, hands trembling with something that felt like guilt but might have been premonition. I'm an architect. I design buildings that will stand for 100 years. I calculate load-bearing capacities and stress tolerances and failure points. I should have calculated my own, because the device didn't give me peace of mind. It gave me the truth. The Pine View Inn was a 2-star motel about 20 minutes outside the city. The kind of place with a faded sign and a parking lot that needed repaving. The kind of place that charged by the hour and didn't ask for IT. Not the kind of place you'd find a pharmaceutical sales rep with a 6-figure income and a country club membership. But there was her car, the little blue dot on my phone, sitting motionless in the parking lot, had been there for 47 minutes now. Tuesday afternoon. She'd texted me at noon. A crazy day. Back client meetings until 5. Love you. So, I stared at that text for a long time. Counted the exclamation points. The XO she only added when she was feeling guilty about something. Then I stared at the dot. I didn't call, didn't text. I just watched. 2 hours and 47 minutes. That's how long she stayed. When she came home that evening, she kissed me on the cheek. I could smell the motel soap on her skin. Industrial and cheap. Nothing like the artisanal stuff she kept in our shahan. Count what a day, she said, dropping her purse on the counter. I'm absolutely exhausted. How were your meetings? Brutal. 3 different hospitals, and the last one, Heiser. The procurement guy talked for 90 minutes straight about his daughter's volleyball tournament. Like I care about middle school athletics. She laughed, rolling her eyes. I need a shower. She always showered now, I realized. Every evening, sometimes twice. How's your memory been today? I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral. Fine, actually. No episodes. Maybe the stress management stuff is working. Dr. Reeves taught me this breathing technique that seems to help. She smiled at me. That beautiful smile I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago in a college economics lecture when she dropped her notebook and I'd picked it up and our hands had touched and I'd known, just known that I was going to marry this woman. She smiled at me with that smile, and behind it was nothing but lies. I didn't confront her. I know that's what most men would do. Scream, throw things, put a fist through drywall, demand answers while the veins bulge in their necks. That I'm not most men. I'm an architect, and when a building is structurally compromised, you don't start swinging a sledgehammer. You assess. You document. You understand exactly where the failure points are before you make a single move. So I went to work the next day, sat through a 3-hour design review, finished a proposal for a new mixed-use development in the Arts District, a $40 million project, the biggest of my career, took a lunch meeting with a potential client, made him laugh 3 times, and walked away with a verbal commitment for a restaurant renovation. After work, I went to the gym and ran 6 miles on the treadmill until my lungs burned and my legs screamed and my shirt was soaked through, and I still couldn't outrun the image of that blue dot sitting in that parking lot. I made dinner, pasta primavera, her favorite. Opened a bottle of the Sansa she loved, asked about her day with a smile plastered on my face like a mask, and inside I started building something. Not a building this time. A case. Day 17. Another lapse. Another 3 hours at the Pine View Inn. This time I drove there myself. I parked across the street behind a plumber's van and watched through my sunglasses like some pathetic protagonist in a bad detective novel. Alexis was there, of course. Third spot from the left, and 2 spots away a white BMW sedan I didn't recognize. I photographed the license plate with the same phone that was tracking my wife to her betrayal. Then I sat in my car for 10 minutes, breathing slowly, watching the door of room 114. The curtains were drawn. The "Do Not Disturb" sign was hanging from the handle. A part of me, the angry part, the winded part, wanted to kick that door down, catch them in the act, watch their faces when they realized the game was over. But that would be satisfying for about 30 seconds, and then I'd have nothing, no leverage, no control, just the temporary pleasure of causing them pain. I wanted more than that. I wanted everything. I drove home, called Marcus Webb, my college roommate who'd gone on to become a detective with the state police. We hadn't talked in months, but he owed me for helping renovate his deck last summer. 2 weekends of brutal labor and August heat. "I need you to run a plate for me," I said. No questions. Devon, man, that's not exactly. That's the kind of favor that can get me in trouble. I know. And I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Marcus was quiet for a long. This about Natalie. The plate, Marcus. Another pause. Texted to me. "But you didn't get this from me. Understand." The name came back 3 hours later, and I had to pull my car over to the side of the road because I couldn't see through the red haze that suddenly filled my vision. Nathan Cole. Nathan Antrim Cole. My best friend since freshman orientation at Northwestern, when we'd been assigned to the same dorm floor and discovered a shared love of terrible action movies, expensive scotch, and arguing about basketball. The best man at my wedding, who'd given a toast so moving that even my stoic father had tears in his eyes. Godfather to my sister's daughter. The man who'd held me at my mother's funeral when I finally broke down and couldn't stop shaking. Nathan. I sat in my car on the side of Route 14 for half an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there staring at nothing while the man I'd been for 38 years quietly died, and something colder took his place. I couldn't stop thinking about the pattern of it, the architecture. 3 years ago, Natalie had changed jobs. She'd been working for a Snollen pharmaceutical company, local territory, reasonable hours. Then Nathan had mentioned casually at one of our dinner parties that his contact at Meridian Pharmaceuticals was looking for a sales rep for a new racial territory. Great pay, he'd said, topping off her wine glass. Great benefits. The schedule's pretty flexible too, from what I hear. Lot of autonomy. "You shit," I told her. "I can put in a good word." I'd thought nothing of it. Why would I? Nathan was always helping people. That was his thing. Mr. Connected, Mr. Networking, Mr. I know a guy. He'd helped my sister find her apartment. He'd gotten my business partner's kid an internship. He collected favors the way some people collected stamps. But now, sitting in my car with his name burning on my phone screen, I did the math. She got the job. The job with flexible hours and remote work days and client meetings that could take her anywhere, anytime, without anyone checking up on her. This wasn't an affair that had just happened. This had been engineered. Nathan had positioned my wife into a job that gave them cover, and I'd thanked him for it. I'd bought him a bottle of Macallan 18 to celebrate her new position. We toasted to good friends and new opportunities. The betrayal had lain us. like an Hunnand, or like a building designed to collapse from the inside out. I hired a private investigator named Leon Chambers. His office was on the third floor of a building that should have been condemned, wedged between a pawn shop and a check cashing place. The elevator didn't work. The stairs smelled like old cigarettes and desperation. Leon himself was former FBI, 23 years of service, built like a line-tack to seat, but with eyes that missed nothing. His handshake could crush walnuts. His office smelled like coffee and disappointment, which seemed appropriate. There was a photo on his desk, him in a suit standing next to a woman and two teenage boys. Happy family portrait. He saw me looking. Ex-wife, he said. Cheated with my partner 7 years ago. He shrugged. Everyone who walks through that door has a story. I don't judge. Does everyone who walks through that door get what they're looking for? Senathan, the ones who are ready for the truth. I'm ready. He studied me for a moment. Most people say that. Most people aren't. They want to be wrong. They'll find nothing. He leaned forward. What do you want, Mr. Mitchell? Actually want? What do you need? I need to know everything. How long the affair has, often they meet, what she's been telling people about me. I paused. And I need documentation that will hold up in court. Leon studied me for a long moment. His eyes were the color of slate and just as warm. Most men in your position want me to get pictures of their wife in the act. Catch him in bed. Something dramatic. I don't care about that. What do you care about? I met his eyes. I want to understand the architecture of it. Every beam, every load-bearing wall, every single nail. I want to know how they built this, and I want to know how to tear it down without leaving anything standing. He nodded slowly. That'll take time. A lot of hours. I don't care about that either. It'll be expensive. Send me the contract. We shook hands again. His grip was testing me, measuring something. Whatever he found, he seemed satisfied. Give me 2 weeks, he said. I'll have everything you need. Leon's first report came 10 days later. I read it in my office with the door locked and my assistant told to hold all calls, the blinds drawn against the afternoon sun. The affair had been going on for at least 8 months. Weekly meetings, sometimes twice a week, always the Pineview Inn, because it took cash and didn't keep records, and the manager was half blind and fully disinterested in his guests' identities. The memory lapses had begun 6 months ago, right when I had started noticing time gaps in her schedule, asking casual questions about her day that she couldn't quite answer. She'd invented the lapses to cover the inconsistencies. Brilliant, really. I couldn't accuse her of lying about where she'd been if she couldn't remember where she'd been. The concerned husband act I'd been performing, that was exactly what she wanted. It gave her cover and made me feel guilty for even suspecting her. Leon included photographs. Natalie and Nathan entering the motel, his hand guiding her toward the door. Leaving together, his hand on the small of her back. Her laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in that way. She used to laugh with me back when I could still make her laugh like that. I looked at those photos for exactly 30 seconds. Then I closed the file and moved on to the data. Phone billing records. Not content that would require a warrant, but frequency and timing. Nathan and Natalie texted 30 to 40 times daily. First text usually around 6 in the morning before I woke up. Last text often past midnight after I'd fallen asleep. They were maintaining a parallel relationship, a shadow marriage running alongside both of their real ones. because Nathan was married to Caroline, formerly Caroline Martinez, 8 years his wife and mother of his 2 children. A woman I'd shared Thanksgiving dinners with. A woman who'd cried on my shoulder last Christmas when she confided that she felt like Nathan had become distant lately. "He's always on his fun," she told me, voice thick with wine and worry. "Even when we're in bed, even when we're at dinner with the kids. I feel like I'm competing with something. I don't know what." I'd patted her shoulder and told her work stress affects everyone differently. I told her Nathan loved her and the kids more than anything. I defended him. How they must have laughed about that later. But Leon found something else, something that turned my cold rage into something arctic. "Your wife's been talking," he said during our second meeting. He'd come to my office this time, a manila folder thick with documents under his arm. "To a lot of people." "Talking about what?" "About you." He slid a printout across my desk. "She's been building a narrative. Started about 2 years ago." I read the printout. These were excerpts from emails on the family computer we shared. A computer Natalie had apparently forgotten I could access. Messages ahead. Devon barely looks at me anymore. I feel like a ghost in my own house. Sometimes I wonder if he even remembers I exist. Messages to her best friend. "I don't know if I can keep doing this. He doesn't see me. He sees his work, his projects, his clients, but never me. 2 years. The complaint started 2 years ago, long before anything had changed between us, long before any actual distance existed. She was laying groundwork," I said. "It wasn't a question, exactly. Creating a paper trail, building the story of the neglected wife so that when the truth came out, she'd have a ready-made defense." Leon pulled out another sheet. "It gets worse. Tell me. 18 months ago she suggested couples therapy. You went, right?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "Yes. Dr. Richard Hoffman. Nice office on Waverly Street. You opened up in those sessions. Talked about your mother's illness, your fear of abandonment, your father withdrawing after your mom got sick. How do you know what I said in therapy?" Leon's expression was almost sympathetic. "I don't, but she does, and she told Nathan. Everything conveyed in those sessions she fed to your best friend. He used your own insecurities to connect with her, made himself the answer to every problem you admitted you had." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my desk, and "Here's the kicker," Leon continued. "Nathan was in the waiting room during at least 2 of those therapy sessions, supporting Natalie, waiting to drive her home afterward. I remembered those sessions now with horrible clarity. Dr. Hoffman's soothing voice, the leather chair that creaked every time I shifted my weight, the way Natalie had held my hand and encouraged me to really open up. "It's good for us," she'd said. "The more honest we are here, the stronger we'll be." So I'd been honest. I told Hoffman about the nightmares I still had about my mother, watching her deteriorate, watching my father shut down, being 15 years old and essentially alone in a house with 2 ghosts. I'd talked about my fear that I wasn't enough, that I'd never be enough, that one day Natalie would wake up and realize she'd married a man with nothing but work to offer. "I'm terrified of losing her," I'd said in one session, my voice cracking. "She's everything to me. Without her, I don't know who I am." Natalie had squeezed my hand, kissed my cheek, told me I was brave for being so vulnerable. Then she'd walked out to the waiting room and told my best friend every word, given him a roadmap to my city, handed over the blueprints to my fortress so he could dismantle it brick by brick. I stood up abruptly, crossed to my office's small bathroom, and stood at the sink, gripping the porcelain until my knuckles went white. The man staring back at me in the mirror had red, rimmed eyes and a jaw clenched so tight the muscles stood out like cables. The man I'd been would have kicked down doors, would have screamed, would have done something messy and satisfying and ultimately self-deceptive. That man died in that bathroom. The man who walked out was something else entirely. I needed to know about Caroline. Was she complicit, or was she another victim? I couldn't just call her. That would tip my hand. So I engineered a coincidental meeting. Caroline did freelance graphic design work at a coffee shop downtown on Wednesday afternoons. I knew this because Natalie had mentioned it once casually, the way she mentioned things that weren't supposed to matter. I walked in at 3:15 on a Wednesday, ordered a cortado, and let my eyes accidentally land on Caroline sitting in the corner with her laptop. Caroline. Hey! She looked up, and I saw the exhaustion immediately. Dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Hair that hadn't been professionally done in a while. A smile that was assembled rather than felt. Devon. Oh my God, it's been ages. She closed her laptop. What are you doing in this part of town? Client meeting got cancelled last minute. Figured I'd grab some coffee before heading back. I gestured at the empty chair across from her. Mind if I sit for a minute? Feels like I haven't seen you since the Henderson barbecue last summer. We made small talk, work, the kids, the unusually warm autumn. I was patient. I'd become very good at patience. Then, carefully, I steered the conversation toward Nathan. How's he doing? Seems like he's been traveling out LA. Every time I text him about grabbing a beer, he's in another city. The pause before her answer told me everything. He's busy, she said, picking at her napkin. The promotion track. You know how Hartwell is. They work those guys to the bone. Sure. Must be hard on you, though. Holding down the fort with the kids while he's gone. She looked at me, really looked at me, and something cracked behind her eyes. A dam that had been holding for months suddenly had a fissure. Can I tell you something? Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. And you have to promise not to say anything to Nathan. Of course, I feel like I'm going crazy. Her hands were trembling slightly. There are these receipts, hotel receipts. He says they're work-related expense reports, but they're always the same place. Some motel I've never heard of. And he's always on his phone, even in bed, even at dinner. And I've tried to talk to him about it, but he makes me feel like I'm paranoid, like I'm the one with the problem, like I'm some jealous, suspicious wife who doesn't trust her husband. My heart broke for her. And simultaneously, the last piece clicked into place. You're not crazy, I said quietly. Her eyes went wet. What? You're not crazy, Caroline, and you're not paranoid. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a business card. But we shouldn't talk about this here. Call me when you can meet somewhere private. We have a lot to discuss. She looked at the card, then at me. Her face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Devon, what do you know? Collie, I said. Sin. We met 3 days later at a park on the outskirts of the city, far from anyone who might recognize us. The leaves were turning golden and falling around us like confetti at a funeral. She brought a folder with credit card statements and hotel receipts. I brought mine with photographs and GPS logs. When she saw the pictures from the Pine View Inn, Nathan and Natalie entering room 113, his hand on her waist, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sat very still on that park bench, her face pale in the autumn light. 8 months, she finally said. At least. And she's your wife? Yes. And he's your best friend. He was. 15 years. I thought I knew him better than I knew myself. She was quiet for a long time. A jogger passed by. A woman with a stroller. Normal people living normal lives. I found receipts 3 months ago, she said. Same motel. I confronted him, and he told me I was crazy. He said it was a work expense, some off-site meeting. He made me feel like I was paranoid, like something was wrong with me. She laughed bitterly. He even suggested I should see someone, a therapist, to work on my trust issues. They're good at that, I said, making us think we're the problem. How did you find out? I told her. The GPS tracker, the license plate, the private investigator, the photographs and phone records, and the slow, methodical construction of the case. She shook her head. That's incredibly calculated. I'm an architect. It's what I do. I build things. I understand structures. I looked at her, and I understand how to tear them down. What are you to do? I'm going to destroy them. Both of them. Legally, financially, professionally. By the time I'm done, they won't have anything left. I expected her to flinch, to protest that Nathan was still her children's father, that we should be civilized about this, that revenge wouldn't make us feel better. Instead, she sat up straighter, her jaw set. Something hardened behind her eyes that I recognized because I'd felt it in myself. Tell me how I can help. Are you sure? Once we sent this, there's no going back. Your kids will be affected, your social circle, everything. My kids are already affected, she said quietly. They have a father who lies to their mother every single day, who sneaks around like a teenager, who makes me feel crazy for noticing what's right in front of my face. She looked at me. I'd rather they have a divorced mother with self-respect than an intact family built on lies. Then we do this together. Hotonate it. We file for divorce on the same day, same time if possible. And Nathan's promotion gala, that's where we make sure everyone knows what kind of man he really is. Won't that seem vindictive? Won't people judge us for airing dirty laundry? Let them judge. By the time that night is over, they'll be too busy judging Nathan and Natalie to care about us. Caroline was quiet for a moment. Then she extended her hand. Partners, she said. I shook it. Partners? The next weeks were preparation. My attorney, William Grant, reviewed our prenuptial agreement. I'd almost forgotten about it. Natalie's parents had insisted on it before the wedding to protect her family's money. Old Philadelphia wealth, the Porters. They'd looked at like I was the gold digger, a middle-class kid from Ohio who'd worked his way through college on scholarships and part-time jobs. I remembered her father at the signing, licking down his nose at me. Nothing personal, son, just protecting our daughter's interests. I'd smiled and nodded and signed wherever they pointed, secure in the knowledge that I would never need their money, never want it, never touch it. I was going to build my own fortune, which I had, and now the prenup they'd insisted upon was going to protect that fortune from their daughter. Irony is a beautiful thing, but the prenup has that worked both ways. Infidelity by either party resulted in the offending spouse forfeiting any claim to marital assets accumulated during the marriage. My firm was worth $4.2 million. The house, purchased during our marriage, would revert to the faithful spouse. She signed without reading the full document. William said, reviewing the original paperwork, "We have video footage from the signing. Standard practice for high asset agreements." She's laughing, toasting champagne. No duress argument will hold up. Good, Devon. William looked at me over his reading glasses. Are you sure about this? Once we file, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I also learned about Nathan's upcoming promotion. Partner at Hartwell and Associates. The announcement was scheduled for their annual gala in 6 weeks. Nathan had spent 15 years climbing that ladder. His entire professional identity was built on his reputation at that firm. The partners were old money, old values, conservative men who used phrases like family values and personal integrity without irony. An exposed affair would destroy him, and the gala was at a venue I knew intimately, the Grand Monarch Hotel. My firm had designed the renovation 3 years ago. I knew every entrance, every exit, every service corridor. The pieces were arranging themselves. All I had to do was be patient. Hey, brother, we should grab beers soon. Mission. The text from Nathan arrived on a Thursday afternoon, and I stared at it for a full minute before responding. My thumbs hovered over the keypoint. I could end it now. Tell him I knew. Watch the facade crumble. Instead, I typed absolutely. Let's plan something. Maybe next week. Perfect. It's been too long. We'll catch up. I set my phone down and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. That night, I brought Natalie flowers. Red roses, long-stemmed. A dozen of them wrapped in brown paper from the expensive florist downtown. What's this for? She asked, genuinely surprised. Does there have to be a reason? I just love you. Wanted to remind you of that. The guilt flickered across her face so fast I would have missed it if I hadn't been watching for it. A micro-expression, the flinch of a woman who knows she doesn't deserve the kindness she's receiving. I love you too, she said and kissed me. And the flowers went in a vase on the kitchen counter, where I could look at them while I finished building my case against her. I created what I called the blueprint, a detailed timeline, every move planned, every contingency accounted for. I kept it in a locked file on my laptop, encrypted, password protected. Caroline and I met twice more to coordinate. She was sharper than I'd given her credit for. Organized, methodical, with a memory for details that matched my own. I've been keeping records for months, she told me during our second meeting. I didn't know what I was keeping them for, but something told me not to throw anything away. Smart, desperate, mostly. But same result. We synchronized our divorce filings. Same day, same time. Our attorneys would serve the papers simultaneously. Hers at the gala, mine at the gala. Maximum impact, maximum humiliation, maximum control over the narrative. Day 63. I told Natalie I had a conference in Denver. 3 days, Friday through Sunday. Important industry thing. Keynote speaker was some guy who'd revolutionized sustainable architecture. I wish I could come, she said, helping me pack. But work is so crazy right now. I know, babe, it's fine. You can come to the next one. I showed her the hotel confirmation, kissed her goodbye at the door, told her I loved her. Then I drove 30 minutes to a different hotel, a nice one with room service and a view of the city, and waited. Leon had a man watching her house. Within 4 hours of my departure, Natalie was in her car heading for the Pine View Inn. She didn't even wait for the sun to set. Nathan arrived 20 minutes later. They stayed the entire weekend. The test was conclusive, but I'd known it would be. I wasn't testing whether she would betray me. I was testing how eagerly, how little hesitation there was between my husband is gone and time to see my lover. 4 hours. That's how long my wife waited before rushing to Nathan's bed. The Hartwell Gala invitation arrived on thick cream paper embossed with gold. Mr. and Mrs. Devon Mitchell. Nathan had probably arranged it, thinking it would be amusing. The oblivious husband celebrating his best friend's triumph. I RSVP'd immediately. The night before the gala, I watched Natalie try on her dress. Navy blue, floor length with a slit-up one thigh. Elegant and expensive. The kind of dress that makes men stare and women envious. "Do you like it?" she asked, turning in front of the mirror. "You'll be the most beautiful woman in the room." She smiled at me, pleased, and it was the last sincere compliment I ever gave her. That night, I slept in the guest room, claimed a headache. She didn't check on even once. Day 79. The gala, we arrived at 6. The Grand Monarch looked immaculate. I designed that entrance, those sightlines, the way the light fell through the aters at golden hour. I knew this building the way I knew my own body. Natalie was radiant on my arm in her navy dress, diamonds sparkling at her ears and throat. I was impeccable in my charcoal suit, custom-tailored silver cufflinks. We looked like the perfect couple, the kind of people who appeared in lifestyle magazines. "You okay?" she asked, squeezing my arm. "You seem tense. Big night for Nathan. Want everything to go well." "That's so sweet." She kissed my cheek. "You're such a good friend." I almost laughed. Nathan and Caroline arrived separately. She looked exhausted and pale, playing her part perfectly. The worn-out wife putting on a brave face. He was beaming with anticipation, working the room, shaking hands with the partners who would determine his fate. During cocktail hour, Natalie excused herself to freshen up. I watched her go, then checked my phone. The GPS tracker, still active, showed she was in the building, but the bathroom was in the opposite direction of where she went. I drifted through the crowd until I found a service corridor. Through the door's small window, I could see them. Natalie and Nathan Fessy together in his shadows, whispering intensely. His hand was on her hip. She was fixing his tie. 4 minutes. They risked everything for 4 minutes of stolen contact at an event surrounded by people who knew them. That's addiction. Not love. Not even passion. Just the inability to resist. I walked back to the main room and accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. At 7:45, Robert Castellano approached me. Silver-haired, distinguished, the founding partner of Hartwell and Associates. We'd worked together on a project years ago. He'd wanted to renovate his beach house, and I designed something beautiful. "Devon, glad you could make it. Big night for your friend." I smiled. "Bigger than he knows." He looked at me curiously, but before he could ask what I meant, someone else claimed his attention. A.T. Huns. Robert took the stage. The room fell silent. 200 guests in formal attire, champagne in hand, waiting for the main event. His speech was everything you'd expect. Legacy, integrity, the values Hartwell was built upon. "We don't just look for talent," he said. "We look for character, for people who exemplify what this firm stands for." Words that would age very poorly in about 10 minutes. And so it gives me great pleasure to announce our newest partner, Robert continued, a man who has worked tirelessly for 15 years, who exemplifies these values in every aspect of his professional and personal life. Nathan Cole. Applause erupted. Nathan stood from his table, strategically positioned near the front, and buttoned his jacket with practiced ease. His smile was incandescent. This was the moment he'd worked his entire career for. He was 3 steps from the stage when the doors opened. Leon Chambers walked in. He dressed appropriately. dark suit, conservative tie, but he moved with the purpose of a man on a mission. He walked directly to Robert's assistant, a young woman named Diana who'd been briefed to expect exactly this delivery. Leon handed her a portfolio. She handed it to Robert. Nathan reached the stage. Robert shook his hand, but he didn't hand over the microphone. Instead, he leaned close and whispered something. I watched Nathan's face from across the room, watched the smile freeze, watched the color drain from his cheeks, watched his eyes dart around the room, looking for an exit that didn't exist. Two senior partners appeared at his elbows. They guided him backstage, gently but firmly. Robert addressed the crowd. We're experiencing a pre-intermission. Technical difficulties. Please enjoy the refreshments and we'll resume shortly. Confused murmurs rippled through the room. I sipped my champagne. 3 minutes later, a process server entered the main hall. He was dressed like a guest, but he moved with purpose, scanning the crowd until he found his target. This is Natalie Mitchell. She nodded, confused. Yes. He handed her a large envelope. You've been served. Have a nice evening. I was 20 feet away, positioned for a perfect feint. I watched her open the envelope with trembling fingers, watched her pull out the divorce papers, saw her eyes find the highlighted section, the infidelity clause, and watched the blood drain from her face. She looked up, scanning the room frantically, and her eyes found mine. I didn't approach, didn't speak. I just stood there, champagne in hand, watching. Her phone buzzed. A text for an andanfak. She looked at it with shaking hands, clicked the link that appeared. The photos. All of them. The Pine View Inn. Nathan. Timestamps proving she was there during her convenient memory lapses. Another text came through. I never had the illness. But you did. The inability to tell the truth. Across the room, Caroline Cole was approaching the backstage door. Security tried to stop her. She showed them her ID. She was Nathan Cole's wife. They let her through. From backstage, I could hear raised voices. Nathan's high and desperate. This is a misunderstanding. Robert, please, just give me a chance to explain. Robert's cold as ice. The evidence is conclusive. The photographs alone, Nathan. You're done here. Don't make this worse. Nathan emerged 5 minutes later, his face as crimson, his tie loosened, his composure shattered. He looked like a man who'd just watched his life burn down. He scanned the room, saw Natalie standing frozen with divorce papers clutched in her hands, guests whispering and pointing, and then his eyes found mine. I raised my glass slightly. A toast to 11 years of friendship reduced to ashes. He started toward me, hands clenched, and for a moment I thought he might throw a punch. I almost hoped he would, but Caroline intercepted him. She stepped in front of him, blocking his path. In a voice that didn't waver, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, she said, I'm taking the children. Don't come home tonight. Don't come home ever. Then she walked out. Nathan stood alone in the middle of the gala, meant to celebrate his greatest achievement. The partners were huddled by the stage making halls, their expressions grim. The whispers had become a roar. 200 people, and every single one of them was looking at him like he was a bug under glass. I set down my champagne and walked toward my wife. She was shaking. Tears were streaming down her face, ruining her careful makeup. The other guests had given her space. Nobody wants to stand too close to a car accident. Devon. Her voice cracked. I can explain. Can you explain why you remember every detail in afternoons at the Pine View Inn, but couldn't remember what you had for lunch? The lapses were convenient, Natalie, until they weren't. She flinched like I'd hit her. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to watch you lie to my face 47 separate times." I counted. She reached for me. "Devon, please. I know this looks bad, but it's not. It's not what you think. Nathan and I, we were just what? Just what?" I kept my voice level, controlled. "Just sleeping together for 8 months. Just texting 40 times a day. Just using my therapy sessions to give him ammunition against me." Her face went white. "How did you—" "I know everything, Natalie. Every motel visit, every lie. Every time you told your friends what a terrible husband I was while you were betraying our marriage with my best friend." "That's not fair," she said, her voice rising. A few nearby guests were openly staring now. "You were never there, Devon. You were always working, always focused on the next project. I needed someone who would actually see me. Don't." I held up a hand. "Don't you dare try to make this my fault. I tracked your car for 2 months. I know exactly when you were having your lapses, and I know exactly where you were. The Pine View Inn, room 114, every single week." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "The memory problems," I continued. "The confusion, the tears, all of it was an act. You weaponized my fear of Alzheimer's. You knew about nothing. You knew what that would do to me. And you used it to cover your affair. Devon, I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew exactly you were too. You rehearsed it. You practiced looking lost and scared so I wouldn't ask questions. And the whole time you were telling everyone I was emotionally distant so that when this came out, you'd look like the victim." That's not. "I have the emails, Natalie. I have everything." She stared at me, and I watched the masks fall away, the scared wife, the confused patient, the loving partner. All the personas she'd been wearing peeled back until there was nothing left but a woman caught in her own web. "Please," she whispered. "Can we talk about this somewhere private?" "No. There's nothing to discuss. The house will be listed next week. You have 30 days to collect your belongings. Any personal items you lent will be donated. My attorney will be in contact regarding the settlement, though the prenup makes that quite simple. I love you." "No." My voice was flat. "You loved the life I built. The stability, the nice house, the country club membership, and knowing you always had somewhere to land if things went wrong. Nathan was the excitement. I was the safety net. But you don't get both anymore." I leaned close, spoke directly into her ear. "You don't get anything." I walked away without looking back. The aftermath unfolded exactly as I designed it. Nathan was formally removed from Hartwell and Associates within a week. The official statement cited personal conduct inconsistent with firm values. The unofficial story spread through their industry in 10 hours. His name became poison in professional circles. 15 years of work erased in a single evening. Natalie tried to contest the prenup. Her attorney argued she'd signed under duress. William Grant produced the video from the signing. Natalie laughing, toasting with champagne, joking with her father about how she and I would be together forever. The duress claim collapsed immediately. Natalie's attorney, a different cunch, argued that the prenup was unconscionable given the length of the marriage. William shut that down too, producing case law from 3 different jurisdictions. "Your wife signed away her rights," he told me after the final hearing, "and she did it with a smile on her face. There's nothing they can do." I felt nothing. I'd expected satisfaction, vindication, something. Instead, there was just emptiness and a vague sense of relief that the legal battles were over. Her employer, Meridian Pharmaceuticals conducted a routine review after the divorce became public. They discovered that many of her client meetings had been fabricated. Expense reports that didn't match any actual hospital visits. GPS records showing her car at a motel when she was supposedly making sales calls. She was terminated for falsifying work records. The job Nathan had gotten her, the job that gave them cover for their affair, was gone. Nathan sent me a letter 3 weeks after the gala. 3 pages, handwritten on expensive stationery. Apologies, explanations, justifications. Our friendship meant everything to me, he wrote. You have to understand, I never meant for this to happen. Natalie and I, there was something between us that we couldn't control. I read half a page. Then I fed every sheet into my office shredder and got back to work. Caroline filed for divorce and got full custody. Nathan's visitation was every other weekend, supervised for the first 3 months. He moved to Oregon for a diminished position at a firm that didn't know his history yet. But they would. The consulting world is smaller than people think. I sold the house. Too many memories in every room, every corner, every inch of space we'd shared. I bought a condo downtown near my office, modern, clean, no history. I started seeing a new therapist, Dr. Amara Wallace, who specialized in betrayal trauma. Real therapy this time, with someone my wife hadn't compromised. The first session, Dr. Wallace asked me what I was feeling. Nothing, I said. I planned everything, executed everything, won everything, and I feel nothing. That's trauma, she said. You're still in survival mode. The feelings will come. She was right. They did. Slowly at first. Anger that woke me at 3 in the morning. Grief that hit me in the middle of client meetings. A bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. But with the feelings came something else. Clarity. I reconnected with my sister, Jessica, who confided over wine one night that she'd never liked Natalie. There was always something off, she said. The way she watched you when you weren't looking, like she was calculating something. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would you have listened? She had me there. I started designing a community center for at-risk youth. Something meaningful, something that might outlast me. The divorce was final 4 months after the gala. I sat with the decree for an hour, reading every page. Natalie had contested nothing in the end. There was nothing to contest. I filed it in a jar and went for a run. 5 miles along the river, the cold air burning my lungs, my feet pounding against the pavement in a rhythm that almost felt like healing. 1 year later, I was at a gallery opening. My firm had designed the space, all clean lines and dramatic lighting. I was being interviewed for an architecture magazine when I saw her across the room. Not Natalie. A woman I didn't know. Dark hair, early 30s, aching. She was studying one of the structural columns with what looked like genuine interest. Not the polite appreciation people fake at these, but actual curiosity about how it was built. She caught me looking, smiled, looked back at the column. I didn't approach her. Wasn't ready for that. Didn't know if I'd ever be ready. But the next morning, she was at the coffee shop across from my office. Same window seat. Same focused expression as she typed on her laptop. Coincidence, probably. The coffee there was good. Lots of professionals from the area stopped by. But then she looked up and saw me through window. She smiled, held up her coffee cup in a mock toast. I stood on the sidewalk like an idiot for about 5 seconds. Then I walked in. The column, I said. The N you were looking at last night. What did you think? She closed her laptop. I thought whoever designed it understood that strength doesn't have to be obvious. The whole painting looks light, almost delicate, like it might float away in a strong wind, but it could survive an earthquake. The load distribution is beautiful. Most architects just want things to look impressive. This one understood function. That's very specific feedback. I'm an engineer. I notice structure. She smiled. Also, I may have looked up who designed the building after the party. Why? Because I wanted to know if the person who made those columns wasn't hissing as the columns themselves. I sat down across from her. I'm Devon, I said. But you already knew that. I'm Maya. I'm an engineer. I read the trade magazines, but I'm not a stunker. I promise. She laughed, an easy, unguarded sound that caught me off guard. I just appreciate good design. It's rare. We talked for an hour about architecture, about load-bearing structures, about the difference between building something that looks impressive and building something that lasts. She asked good questions. Not the polite, half-interested questions most people asked at parties, but real questions about materials and stress tolerances, and why I'd chosen certain approaches. She gave me her card before she left. I looked at it for a long time after she was gone. Maya Thornton, structural engineer. A phone number and email. It wasn't love. Wasn't even close to that. But it was something I'd given up on ever feeling again. Hope. The kind you think you've lost forever. The kind that shines out anyway, waving at you through a coffee shop window. I waved back the end.